Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Tuesday. We're going to have our team training Tuesday. I also like to call it Applied Near Life. And that's because hopefully we will learn how to apply what we've got to real life situations. My name is Dr. Esezanambasi, and I host this platform. And today we want to really finish off a series that I called Back to Basics. At first, the first week we spoke about, the first in the series, we spoke about weight and stress. And that was actually a series of stories where we were talking about how lifestyle has changed and its impact on our general health, particularly the way we started gaining weight. And out of weight gain, there's a lot of other things that happen, such as stress and other diseases. And then, of course, last week we spoke about peptic ulcers. And again, I was looking at peptic ulcers from a different perspective and tying it all together with stress. Today, I want to really finish the loop and close the loop up by talking about cardiovascular diseases. In other words, heart and blood vessel challenges and how they are impacted by stress and the other way around, how they become very stressful. So yes, what I want to focus on is prioritizing tissue structure to have great function of the cardiovascular system. Now, the cardiovascular system, we really want to look at ways to increase resilience, because what is happening is that the system of the cardiovascular, the heart and blood vessels is breaking down, and that's what is causing disease. Just to remind you that our vision is to end the trend of chronic disease, because it is a fact that cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of disability and death worldwide. And the cost is really, if we could save all that money and put it into other things, we would all be very wealthy. So we urgently, I believe, need to shift paradigm so that we look at ways of overall lifestyle overhaul. And I believe nutrition is central to that. So the most important thing to focus on in order to have that lifestyle overhaul is our mindset. Now, I just want to say that I have behind me over 30 years of medical practice. It's coming to 40 years as a matter of fact. And I have seen the transition. So I'm not talking from not having seen these changes. I have seen changes, and I believe it is urgent that we change our mindset. Because this is and has been for a long time the paradigm where when you talk about lifestyle change, people are not interested. Why? Because they want something that will fix them quickly. And unfortunately, we are quickly discovering that we have a lot of work to do to show people that in order to prevent a lot of disease, they have to change their lifestyle. So the factors that impact heart health include the following: how much you exercise. And we talked about that 2 weeks ago, where sedentary lifestyle seems to be the norm. How much you sleep, actual sleep, good quality sleep. These days, because of blue light and all the gadgets that we have, including how we are communicating, we don't seem to be getting enough sleep. And then diet. What do we mean by a balanced diet? Okay, well, we'll look at that, but we need to take care of that and to make sure that our diet that doesn't include too many toxins. And then, of course, type 2 diabetes is becoming more and more prevalent, as is hypertension. And so we need to look at factors there. And stress, okay? Here it just says stress releases hormones that accelerate vascular damage. And we better believe that. So, you know, your body speaks to you, and the messages that it gives you, such as persistent symptoms of sickness, is actually telling you that there's something wrong somewhere. And so the tradition is that we think it is something that we need to stop. Those symptoms have to be stopped. But can I encourage us to listen to what our body is saying to us, and perhaps start looking at what we are consuming, what we are breathing in, our thought patterns, and perhaps if the environment is not compatible with health and wellness, we need to look at ways to change. Not dramatically and very quickly, but a little bit at a time. A few changes at a time go a long way. Right, the cardiovascular system, the blood vessels and the heart. What do? They transport oxygen and remove carbon dioxide. They transport nutrients and remove wastes. They fight disease. They transport hormones. They regulate body temperature. And if you can think about that, just one thing, transporting nutrients and removing wastes. I think we've spoken time and again about the effect of toxins to our health and the effect of low nutrient supply to our health. So it's very important. So do you know people who are tired? And maybe you yourself, are you tired of being tired? It's time to consider what you can do, because a lot of people rush out and start supplementing, but what we are here to share, and I would like to welcome anybody who's a guest here. Welcome to this meeting. What we want to tell you as guests and all those that have invited the guests, that your choices matter a big deal. And so the question that you should be asking yourself, are all supplements equal? And are all detergents the same? And does it even matter what personal care products you use? And so just keep listening. Perhaps that's what we want to share with you, because if you're using products that bring about the wrong type of inflammation and a lot of inflammation and oxidative damage, that is where disease starts. And that is how disease starts. Now, inflammation per se, the body needs that inflammatory response in reaction to whatever is irritating it. It might be an infection, it might be an injury, it might be some chemical. So the inflammatory reaction or response is our body's natural way of containing situations. However, if it becomes overwhelming, or the body doesn't know how to respond properly, or the body even turns on itself, creating what we call an autoimmune condition, then that is where there are problems. And we're seeing more and more of that. So just to say now that, yes, we have been blessed greatly. We need to make use of all these natural resources, and we need to get out there and exercise and make sure that we hydrate properly. Not always easy, particularly due to industrialization. One of the stories we told when we're talking about revolutions, the Industrial Revolution came along to ensure that even our food supply has been changed dramatically. So cardiovascular disease. That's the focus today. It is a leading problem worldwide. Millions of people are afflicted. And the tragedy is that many do not know they have cardiovascular disease because they are generally no symptoms until the disease is quite advanced. One of the first indicators might be that you incidentally have your blood pressure checked and it is found to be high. So hypertension, it is known as a silent killer. And it is, as I say, usually the first notable clue of cardiovascular disease. And by that I mean it is measurable, therefore it can be detected. However, the damage has been going on for quite a while, and it results from a decrease in elasticity of the vessels. So I hope each one of you is asking, what would be causing a decrease in elasticity of vessels? Okay, good question. And then there is also a decreased internal diameter due to a condition or a process called arteriosclerosis, where the inside of the diameter of the blood vessels have deposits within them called plaque. And so, associated with hypertension, it is known very well, stress, as we've already been intimating a lot. Nutritional deficiencies have been associated with hypertension, and then defects in sodium metabolism, the way the body handles salt, enzyme imbalances, which would also be pointing to perhaps imbalances in protein or the body's ability to create those enzymes if there are not enough of the right building blocks or the right tools. And then, of course, hormonal imbalances, a big, big factor in today's world. So this is a busy slide, and I'll go over it very quickly, just to differentiate between coronary artery disease, where the arteries that carry oxygen and nutrients to the actual muscle of the heart can become narrow or even blocked, and they damage a portion of the heart. And even strokes can happen when that artery disease is happening in the brain. And you can imagine if it is happening somewhere, it's probably happening everywhere. Whereas heart failure is inadequate blood flow from the heart. And the heart, as we know, is a pumping tissue, is our pump in our body. And if it fails, that means the body will not get all the nutrients and waste will not be carried away. And so people generally become tired, shortness of breath, and swollen, okay? So it might not be so obvious. And some people wait for the obvious before they take action. This particular session is to get us to think early and to think quickly, and not to wait until disasters happen. Anyway, so there you have it. A normal artery should be nice, wide, smooth, and it should allow blood to flow. When there is narrowing of an artery, there are deposits within the artery, and that's what we call plaque. And that is generally as a result of a lot of inflammation, which causes cholesterol to try and bridge that inflammation, or to cholesterol is an inflammatory, well, certain types of cholesterol are a measure of inflammation. So that's what we're talking about. And then other things that can happen, from a stroke to eye damage to blood vessel damage to kidney damage. And then here they say chronic high blood pressure or hypertension can manifest or lead to all those things. But I want to say, quite frankly, that chronic high blood pressure is another symptom, and we've just pointed out what happens, the narrowing of blood vessels. So it's something that we can measure. But here we have all sorts of types of heart disease. I won't name them all by one, but you can imagine that the heart, being a complex organ, can have potentially a lot of things that could go wrong, such as the valves, such as dilatation of the ventricles, those are the chambers of the heart, causing heart failure, such as ballooning of a vessel, causing an aneurysm, or the sac in which the heart sits, called the pericardium, might become inflamed, may be diseased by an infection. So there's a lot that can happen, okay? So let us get into the mode of saying prevention is always better. And if you can take advantage of the controllables and you take control of the controllables, please do. Because those are all the things that vex our lifestyle, such as smoking, a sedentary lifestyle, the dietary habits, elevated unhealthy cholesterol because of too much inflammation, obviously weight management, if it is not optimal, diabetes, again, if there is a challenge. All that, if well managed, makes you more resilient to stress. And that's what we are wanting to discuss, resilience. So if we think carefully, all lifestyle habits actually stimulate the adrenal glands, and that's where the stress hormones are made and released from. If all conditions are normal and the body is able to make those hormones, okay? And if the body has all the tools and makes those hormones, then stress will be managed well. But if they are overstimulated, they become exhausted. Those are the adrenal glands that we're talking about. Now, it has been shown and found that vitamin C is concentrated in the adrenal glands, and inadequate intake of that vitamin C, which happens to be water soluble, therefore it cannot be stored in the body, unlike the fat soluble vitamins. If it is inadequate, vitamin C, then adrenal glands become weak. There's adrenal weakness. Other nutrients that are required are the vitamin B complex, also water soluble, and then amino acids to build the protein that will eventually be made into those adrenal hormones for stress, and you need the right minerals, okay? So if you can remember that, I hope you can begin to see how we are connecting the dots here about cardiovascular health being the overriding factor as to how healthy any individual is. Because I don't particularly like breaking us up as human beings into departments and compartments. We are one. As a person, we're supposed to be an integral person. And so if you can connect all these systems together, you'll be doing yourself well. So remember last week's and the week before as we discuss today. Then some points to think about. Insufficient adrenal hormone production can happen in all age groups and can be life-threatening. Important, symptoms develop slowly. Also, remember that stressors, causes of stress, will reveal adrenal insufficiency. Things like an illness, an injury, emotional or psychological stress, perhaps a bereavement or a loss of a friend, or through divorce or just parting. You never know. But a stressor suddenly reveals that, hey, I'm not as resilient as I was or I thought I was. And that is because of adrenal insufficiency. So continue connecting the dots with me and think about the people that you listen to on your day-to-day, every day. Listen out and look out for people who are persistently fatigued, or people who might be complaining of fainting due to low blood pressure, or people who are on blood pressure treatment because they were found to have high blood pressure. You might find people who crave salt. And we see it in children as well, where they enjoy those chips and knickknacks and, those salty things, and adults. You might find people who have persistent complaints of muscle and joint pains, depression, low blood sugar. In other words, they feel weak when they feel that their blood sugar is low, and then they'll reach for those very high glycemic, low nutrient foods. And then loss of libido. So as you have conversations and as you listen out to people, or as you become more observant, you can actually tell that perhaps the cardiovascular system needs attention, and you would be right. Absolutely. So let us start talking a little bit about nutrition supplements. And I just want to remind you that yes, indeed, it does matter what you use. And just to recap, the term bioavailability is used to describe some either food or medication, how much of it enters into circulation and is actually used actively when it is introduced to the body. And as regards nutrient, the availability of that nutrient specifically. And I bring it up now because for the guests, we'd like to introduce you to highly bioavailable nutrition and nutrition supplements, because they are actual food. But before I go there, there are so many supplements on the market. Not all of them are made out of food. That might come as a shock, but it is true. Not all of them are made out of food. So you must ask yourself, can I trust this particular product? Well, we want to introduce you to our scientists. We have leading edge science, and these scientists have an ethic that everything has to be based in nature and backed by their knowledge, their scientific knowledge, okay? And they do the research and development. The Scientific Advisory Board was established by Dr. Arthur First, who came to Neolife, this family that we belong to, in the 70s. Neolife had been already in existence since 1958. And he set up this board of scientists who collaborate, and actually collaborate not only amongst themselves, but with other scientists as well. And they research and develop everything to ensure that what we are getting, we can truly trust. And that is one of our values, products that work. So that is what they're made out of, food, real food. And I love that concept. And they've taken it further and say that they need to feed us at a cellular level. Yes, we become hungry not only in our stomach, but at a cellular level. And so the first product that this company is famous for, and the first product that you should ever recommend to anybody, and the first product, of course, that you should use yourself, is TNN when it comes to supplementing. And it makes all the difference because it enables cells to actually accept nutrients and to allow waste out. And that is particularly important for the cardiovascular system. And then it is within a set of products that work together. We call it Pro Vitality, and that's the one called TreaNN, but it works brilliantly when put in synergy with fish oil, with an antioxidant called carotenoid complex, and with the vitamins and minerals. So for the guests, this is complete nutrition, part of the core nutrition. And I say part because the complete core nutrition includes the building blocks of protein called amino acids. So that set over there is foundational nutrition. Everybody requires it. And we've already pointed out that prevention is always better and more cost effective than attempts to cure advanced disease conditions, especially heart conditions. And you see, once the heart fails, everything else will fail. There's no doubt about that. Because if, for example, last week when we spoke about peptic ulcers, if there's not enough blood supply to the stomach lining or the duodenal lining, the lack of oxygen and the lack of nutrients means that the tissue is weak and it will break down and form an ulcer. Okay, I'll use that as an example. So we have that as the core nutrition to supply you with all these elements that we've talked about. And now I want to discuss targeted solutions for heart and blood vessel health. So you add those after you've laid the foundation, and that is, in a nutshell, the targeted solutions for heart and blood vessels. And let's just go through them quickly. We have lipotropic, we have vitamin E, we have omega, which appears again, and we have garlic. And why garlic is important is that it helps to detoxify. Remember that collection of sludge that we call plaque? It is important for cleaning out blood vessels so that you get a fluent blood flow. Now that, with this detoxifier that is an excellent product called Beta Guard, in combination will ensure that your blood vessels are kept clean and there is fluent blood flow, because that is important. You don't want thick blood that is going to deposit things all over the place. And then we need vitamins. I've just shown you some examples. I've talked about vitamin E in the heart program, but vitamin C is so important. We've talked about the adrenals, concentrating it, but it is also important in repair for because it is important to build collagen. So if you can remember that, you'll be doing very well for yourself. And then minerals. Stress is a big issue, causes blood pressure to go up. CalMag has been shown to help bring blood pressure down, both in combination in a 2-to-1 ratio, but we also have magnesium on its own, which is excellent in making sure that you are not tense, the muscles are nice and relaxed, and that will help go a long way to solve that problem of tension. And then the heart requires a lot of energy, ladies and gentlemen. We have this brilliant product that will go beyond just the cells. It goes right inside to feed these little organelles, as they're called mitochondria. It works in combination with TreaNN and everything else. Now, these are targeted after you've done the foundation. So notice our progression. You might even fine-tune your vitamin C by adding flavonoid. All this is possible as you grow your business, as you stay in the family long enough to appreciate that all these products work in synergy. Flavonoid has been said to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of vitamin C by about 400%. So if you want to use your vitamin C properly, pair it with flavonoid. And then we have this as the Rolls Royce. It gives you 3 carotenoid, 2 flavonoid, and 1 cruciferous tablet. It is important for all those functions. So yes, we can change lives, and people might be prepared to use this as it is because it is conveniently packaged in sachets. I personally do the equivalent of this, but I buy the individual items and I can mix and match as I wish. So we have options. That's the point I'm trying to make. We have a lot of options. So now, let's take a real hard look. What is prevention? And can food be the answer to reversing most common forms of degeneration, such as what happens with heart and blood vessel disease? And what else does the body need for optimal function? And when should we begin? So perhaps I'll answer that question. When we should begin, if we want to really look after our bodies, is at that stage. If all of us have children, or all of us were children at some point, we need to start being careful with what we feed our children early, and we do need to supplement quite early, because the food supply is such that children need supplements perhaps even more than we do. Okay? So, in summary, we need a good diet. We need adequate rest and sleep, good quality sleep. We need to exercise so that the blood flow can go all around the body. We need to manage stress, and we need to supplement. And importantly, and in this particular session, I haven't really dwelt on it, but it is important to make sure that you eliminate as much of those toxins that we tend to use in our homes as possible. They form a lot of stress to our bodies, and that can lower our resilience and ultimately lead to cardiovascular disease. Thank you. Let us go out, let us share near life. And I think it is important that we don't take this lightly, because, as mentioned, cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death and disability the world over. So let us share near life. And now I'm going to stop and we can have a discussion.